What's up, y'all? Revent Builds, Behind the Build, episode 7. So in this series, what we do is we break down in detail all the important things that happened at Revent Builds last week. Starting at the $1 million pool, we were tasked with taking down all of the wooden forms around the retaining wall that we built. The next step, which was a crucial one, is we had to bring in a bunch of the earth that we already moved, the earth and rock, to build up a base that our excavator could sit on so that we could take the fill dirt from outside and bring it inside of our retaining wall. So we had to truck in 60 tons of select fill. And this isn't as easy as it sounds. There's so many keyboard warriors that are like, why don't you just get a huge excavator and do this and do that? Well, let me tell you, when we drive those trucks on our client's driveway, the driveway was nearly cracking. We were seeing that we were doing damage to their property. We cannot get a major excavator up their driveway and onto the site. We cannot get full dump trucks into their driveway. So what we have to do is dump truck all of the dirt down below. Get a bobcat that isn't big enough to crack the concrete, pick up that dirt, bring it all the way around up to our work site. And you know, a lot of the time, it's like, there isn't a perfect way to do things. If we could do it the fastest and most efficient way, that's how we would do it in the beginning. But yeah, it's a pain in my ass too when we have to work around these obstacles. But you know what? We got the job done. 60 freaking tons we brought in with the bobcat, took it with the excavator, put it inside of the retaining wall, which is 10 feet tall, by the way. And on top of that, we could only fill up 8 inches at a time. So what has to happen is you can't drive an excavator 10 feet inside of our retaining wall. So we have to have men inside the retaining wall, dump the dirt in, spread it around by hand, and every 8 inches we have to compact that as hard as we can to try to get almost a concrete-like hardness of surface. So 10 feet tall, every 8 inches we have to compact. We did all of it. Then we got all of our rebar up around the perimeter. This is kind of just like a copy and paste of what we did the week prior. Now we scheduled our next pre-pour inspection. So the engineer has to come and check all of our rebar, look at all of that fill, make sure it's compacted, make sure that we're good. And then, just like the week prior, we're gonna get all of our wood forms up again. The hurdle that is gonna be even tougher is now we're gonna be almost 20 feet out of the ground with this new wall that we pour. So not only is pouring that gonna be difficult, we have the boom pump again, no problem, but getting that fill in is going to be a challenge. And honestly, we're gonna have to get creative on how we do it. So we're brainstorming right now. Again, we wanna be as efficient as possible, but we can't destroy our client's property and we can't get hurt in the process. There's a lot of hurdles that we have to overcome, but that's what we do, baby. And we're pushing on to the next phase. Once we pass that engineer inspection, it's gonna be pedal to the metal yet again. So I will say that as far as complexity goes, getting this bottom foundation is literally the most integral part of everything. And it has been so awesome and sturdy and just perfect as of yet. The new complications that are gonna arise is we're gonna have to work as it gets taller and taller. So building more scaffolding around, bringing in more dirt, filling the earth up just around this retaining wall before we can even get the fill dirt on the inside. And then we're gonna have to start hauling materials up. So we're gonna be pouring concrete, but then the next layer of rebar, we have to literally bring up the sides almost 20 feet tall. So that's gonna be a different set of complications, but we have such an amazing foundation that we're working upon that I'm just 100% confident in nailing the rest of this project. Our West Austin renovation and addition project, there has been a ton of digging over there as well. We're doing a basement, which is what's called a walkout basement, because when you're on a heavy sloped lot, the part that's in the higher slope, that's gonna be about 9 feet under the ground, but then that goes out to nearly level on the back side. So we've done a bunch of excavation there. we have to be very careful because the main house foundation is right there as well. But we have to expose enough to where our structural engineer wants us to add a retaining wall underneath the existing foundation and then join those two foundations together. So it's a little bit tricky and it's been a little bit slow going, but I'm happy with the progress. Now they've done all the excavation that we need. They dug out that hash mark pattern. It's like a grid throughout the foundation with what is called our grade beams. That's where the deeper concrete is gonna get poured into those trenches. So they've dug out all the grade beams, and then they have our outer form, which is just that wood portion of the foundation. That's gonna be the edge form of the concrete. They have our wood forms up. So now that the grade beams are dug, the plumbers are gonna get in there and do their thing. We have some pumps because gravity is not in our favor in any sort of a basement. We have to get in all of our drain lines, and then we can go back in and get our polyplastic, which keeps moisture from coming up from the dirt to the foundation, and then get our rebar mat down. Then we're gonna pass another engineer inspection, another pre-pour, and we're also gonna pass an electric ground inspection where we have to put in copper wire, attach it to our rebar for a certain number of feet, and then that goes back to the panel to ground the whole thing. Once we pass all of those inspections, we can go ahead and pour, and then we're gonna be framing our asses off. At Revent HQ, we are getting really, really close to finishing out. We finally got our beautiful island tile in, which I've really been anticipating. This is such an amazing feature. Me, our welder, Alan, and my framer, tile installer, kind of a multi-trade Pedro, all put our heads together to come up with a pan system made out of custom steel, because the tile that we used is almost 3/4 of an inch thick. And also, it's a concrete tile with a beautiful green glaze on the front, but the side is raw concrete. So any of those exposed edges, they just look ugly. Being that it's a concrete tile, it's a lot more brittle. So when you try to cut that on a 45 to miter them for a corner, it chips, and that also doesn't look good. So I just had a light flicker in my mind. I said, you know what? What if we made a steel pan? So it's shaped kind of like an L at the edge, and that is what all the tile sits in. That also provides support for our overhang. And then what else we did is we did steel angles on all 4 corners, because the tile is not only on the island top, it's on the back face and both sides. I was a little bit iffy because there's other ways of doing this. There's a material called Schluter, which is normally plastic or metal, but it's usually not as thick as we need, and it can look really cheap. I was pretty worried. I talked to our interior designer, I talked to the tile supplier to see if they had some bull noses. It was kind of no luck. So when I came up with this pan idea, I was a little bit reluctant. I'm like, man, I really hope this comes out. And honestly, now it just looks custom as hell. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna paint all of that steel, probably black, to accent the black colors on our island. And now it's gonna look even more custom. And that tile detail is just something that you really don't see every day. And honestly, with Revent HQ, I wanna bring in clients. Look at what we can do. Look at the tile on this island. Look at that custom steel. There's so many different applications of wood, tile, framing, windows, all of this stuff that we could show our clients our badass work up close in personal. I love how the island came out. That was kind of like one of the last really dirty pieces that had to go down. The next thing is we're trying to get all of our glass in, but of course, Hurricane Beryl in Houston, where we had our glass, came in, it knocked out power at the plant. Glass should have been in the week prior, but it's getting delivered in the next episode. So that's just been a minor setback. We had a storm, power went out, it's out of our hands. I would have loved to have all the dirty work done, because after that glass goes in on the next episode, we're pulling all of our floor protection, we're cleaning everything, then we can look at all the final touches that we need. The biggest waypoint that we met at the office, which I said in the previous episode, if we pass our electric final, I will be a happy camper. And you bet your ass we did. So now, the next step is we call into Austin Energy to get our permanent meter set. That can be a 14-day window. We have some molds in Austin Energy that we called to see if they can push us to the front. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But once we get power on in there, we can get all of our lights on, internet running, cameras up, the whole nine, and then it's just a mad race to finish out. The overlook on Lake Travis. So in the casita, we had to demo out all of the existing cast iron drain pipes. That is in the works. We also started on the full water repipe of the recalled Kitech water lines at the main house. Not that much has gone down there because right now it's like moving a glacier. We had to get approvals on change orders. We had to come up with some big game plans, but now all of that is in motion. So you're gonna see a lot more details about that next episode. All right, y'all, another amazing week over here at reVentBuilds. We have so much enthusiasm moving through this massive wave of work we have. We have multiple other projects that are yet to be started. And again, I keep kind of leading y'all with a carrot on the stick. We have some insane houses coming up and we are gonna drop them in the near future. So make sure to stay tuned. We have all this amazing work happening. You're gonna wanna see the insides and outs. Thank y'all again. See you on the next episode.